10-year-old Miguel sat barefoot on the edge of a crowded Manila sidewalk as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting a golden haze over the city's chaos. His fingers gently strummed an old, worn-out guitar, one string missing, another barely in tune, but he played it like it was made of gold. Each note that escaped his lips carried more than melody, it carried longing, desperation, and hope. Miguel wasn't just singing, he was surviving. Passers-by hurried past him, their minds consumed by their own worries. Some tossed coins, others didn't look twice. But Miguel kept singing, eyes half closed, pouring his soul into every lyric. His voice, though young, was haunting, raw and untrained, yet filled with the kind of emotion that couldn't be faked. Every note told a story, of nights spent beside a hospital bed, of medicine they couldn't afford, of a mother who used to hum lullabies before the pain took her voice. Across the street, a woman stood frozen. She was a tourist from California, taking in the colors and clamor of Manila when she heard the boy's voice floating through the noise. At first, she thought it was coming from a speaker, maybe a street performer with professional equipment. But then she saw him, small, tired, and barefoot, playing with the seriousness of someone twice his age. Something in her chest stirred. She pulled out her phone and began recording, her hands trembling slightly. There was something timeless in his sound, a kind of beauty that couldn't be ignored. As Miguel finished his makeshift rendition of an old ballad, the street remained unaware of what had just happened. But that woman, with tears in her eyes, knew she had witnessed something rare. She walked over and dropped a large bill into Miguel's tin can, then knelt beside him and whispered, "You have a gift, sweetheart. Don't stop singing." That night, she uploaded the video, captioning it, "The voice that broke my heart on the streets of Manila." Within hours, it spread like wildfire, shared across continents. But Miguel didn't know any of that yet. All he knew was that he'd earned enough coins to buy his mother soup that night, and that for a brief moment, someone had truly listened. Weeks had passed since the video of Miguel singing on the streets of Manila captured hearts around the world. Millions had seen it, shared it, wept over it, and called for someone to give the boy a chance. And someone did. Now, Miguel stood center stage at one of the world's biggest talent shows in the United States, under lights brighter than anything he'd ever imagined. The stage was enormous, and everything around him felt surreal, the cameras, the roaring audience, the polished judges seated in front of him like royalty. He looked so small up there. His shirt was freshly washed but clearly worn. His pants were a size too big. And his shoes didn't match, one sneaker was red, the other white. A last-minute donation from 2 different volunteers. The audience noticed, and soft murmurs spread through the room. But Miguel didn't flinch. He clutched his guitar tightly, the same one with the missing string, the same one he'd played on that Manila sidewalk. A judge leaned forward with gentle curiosity and asked, "Why are you here, Miguel?" His voice, though quiet, echoed through the theater, "To save my mom." Silence fell. No one laughed. No one whispered. Then the familiar intro to Hotel California began to play. Miguel took a breath, and the moment he opened his mouth, the entire room changed. His voice floated through the air, haunting, angelic, and heartbreakingly beautiful. He didn't just sing the song, he told a story through it. Every lyric carried the weight of his struggles, the pain of watching his mother suffer, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, this performance could change their lives. The crowd listened in stunned silence. There was no flashy performance, no backup dancers or special effects. Just a boy, a guitar, and a voice soaked in soul and sincerity. The judges stared, some visibly emotional, as Miguel reached the chorus, pouring his heart into every note. He wasn't just performing. He was surviving again, but this time, on the biggest stage in the world. Miguel reached the chorus of Hotel California, and the entire auditorium fell into a reverent silence. His voice, pure and piercing, echoed through the massive space like a prayer. There was no distraction, no movement, just the sound of a boy pouring his entire life into a song written decades before he was born. But somehow, it felt like it had always been meant for him. The judges, seasoned professionals who had seen countless performers, were visibly moved. One wiped a tear that had silently slipped down her cheek. Another covered her mouth, trying to hold back the sob forming in her chest. They weren't just reacting to talent. They were responding to truth. Miguel wasn't imitating a song. He was living it, breathing it. His pain, his dreams, his fierce love for his mother, all of it was etched into every trembling note. As he neared the end, his voice cracked slightly, just once, but it wasn't from nerves. It was from something deeper. The weight of everything he'd carried, those lonely nights on the streets, the hunger, the fear, the hope, rose to the surface in that single break of sound. And it broke something open in the room. He strummed the last chord softly, let the silence settle, then gently placed the guitar down. He bowed his head humbly, not knowing if he'd done well, only knowing he had given everything he had. For a few heartbeats, no one moved. Then, like a wave, the audience surged to their feet, clapping, cheering, crying. The applause shook the theater. People were on their feet not just for a performance, but for a boy who had reminded them of something they'd forgotten. The raw, aching beauty of hope. One judge leaned in, voice barely audible over the noise, and whispered with trembling lips, "He's lived every word of that song." And indeed, he had. As the final echoes of Miguel's voice faded into the lights, the audience remained on their feet, clapping wildly, some wiping away tears. The judges sat frozen for a moment, visibly shaken, trying to gather themselves after what they had just witnessed. Then, without a word, one of the judges stood up. Her eyes glistened, her face soft with emotion. Slowly, deliberately, she stepped forward, every footstep echoing through the theater, and walked toward the golden buzzer. Miguel looked up, unsure of what was happening. His little hands trembled. His eyes darted between the judges and the crowd, not daring to hope. Then the judge lifted her hand, paused for just a second, and slammed it down onto the golden buzzer with all her heart. The theater exploded. Gold confetti rained from the ceiling like a blessing from the heavens. The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers. Miguel dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. His hands covered his face as he cried, not from fear this time, but from the sheer disbelief that his dream was finally being seen. The same judge rushed from the panel to the stage, knelt down beside him, and wrapped him in a tight, motherly embrace. Her voice cracked as she whispered into his ear, "Your voice, your story, it touched something deep in all of us. You didn't just sing, you reminded the world what music is really for." Backstage, a screen streamed everything live. Miguel's mother, fragile and in a wheelchair, watched with a nurse by her side. Tears streamed down her face as she reached for the screen, whispering his name. For the first time in months, she smiled, not out of relief, but pride. In that one magical moment, the world stopped for a boy who once sang barefoot on a street corner in Manila. And as golden confetti clung to his shoulders, Miguel realized he wasn't just singing for his mother anymore. He was singing for every unheard voice, every forgotten dream, and now, the world was listening. Weeks later, in a quiet hospital room in Manila, sunlight filtered softly through the window as Miguel sat beside his mother's bed, holding her hand. She looked healthier now, her cheeks no longer sunken, her eyes brighter with life. Machines that once beeped ominously now hummed steadily, and the room no longer felt like a place of waiting, but of healing. Thanks to the outpouring of love and donations from around the world, she had received the treatment doctors once said was impossible. Miguel's life had changed in ways he couldn't have imagined. The talent show not only gave him a stage, but also sponsored his education, music training, and a safe place for him and his mother to live. For the first time in his life, he had a bed of his own, books to read, and warm meals every day. Yet through all the changes, he remained grounded. He still played the same old guitar, now rest-wrung and restored, the scars of its past still visible, just like his own. Soon, invitations poured in from around the globe. Miguel sang on stages in New York, London, and Tokyo. But no matter where he went, he never forgot where it all began: a sidewalk in Manila, a mother fighting to survive, and a single song sung with nothing but heart. He never chased fame. He sang to give hope to kids like him, to parents like his, to anyone who'd ever felt invisible. In every interview, when asked how it all started, Miguel would smile humbly and say, "I sang for my mom, but I touched the world." And he did. With a voice that rose from the streets and reached the stars, Miguel proved that sometimes, all it takes is one song, sung from the soul, to change everything.